Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify them. And friends, it's a new year. Look at it. We're kicking it off in style. And you know what? Let's kick things into gear when it comes to your sales and marketing. You've heard the term doing a launch. You've maybe even stumbled through a few launches yourself. But you know what? You're like, this year, I'm going to get serious about it. So let's introduce our special guest to help simplify this. Her name is Mariana Ruiz. She's a certified business coach and consultant, and she's also the host of the Impact Driven Entrepreneur podcast. She helps impact-driven experts and online entrepreneurs generate consistent revenue online that supports their ideal lifestyle without sacrificing time and financial freedom. She also helps business owners become ethically profitable and helps you guys fast track your success through what she calls her Thrive business model, which we definitely want to dive into. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Mariana Ruiz. Hey, Mariana.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. We are going to go deep into all things marketing launches. And first and foremost, if anybody's listening and tuning into this episode and they're going, Mary, I don't really know what a launch is. Let's start there first. How would you define a marketing launch?
So a marketing launch is an event that you host, usually involving your email list and social media. And it's a really fun event. Like, think back to when Frozen was released and how you started seeing Frozen everywhere. And all of a sudden, McDonald's has Frozen and the store has more Frozen backpacks at it. Like, that is what a marketing launch is. You start to be more visible at different places, and you have a specific date where the doors will be open to one of your programs.
Right. And so when they were launching the movie, they were encouraging people, because they saw it everywhere, to learn more about the movie, maybe go read the reviews online and go, oh, you know what? Actually, this would be a really fun thing for my family or just for fun. So I'm going to go buy a ticket. That's the end goal, right? That people who are interested in your stuff go out and actually buy your stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Are there other major components to consider when you're putting together a marketing launch for your business?
Yeah, I think the most important things are what is your offer? What are you selling? And being able to communicate that. That's going to be a very important piece. And then your audience and really understanding them well enough so that we're doing those launches at times that make sense for them. So, if your audience, let's say, is a stay-at-home mom and, the summertime is the hardest time because the kids, she's trying to coordinate maybe different camps that the kids are at and all of this kind of stuff. And then you're launching when she's busy, she's not going to watch your stuff and she's not going to consume the content. And therefore, she's not going to know about the program you're selling. So really considering your audience with the timing and the message that matches where they are at that time.
Well, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, just to simplify it down to the dumbest level, don't sell bikinis in the month of December unless you're selling bikinis to people who forgot their bikini and they're on a cruise in the Caribbean, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then what I hear there is thinking about the year ahead, and thinking about the different products or services that you offer and when your ultimate ideal client actually wants and needs that thing, mapping it out on a 12-month scale. What should we consider when we're mapping this out in a year-long kind of concept?
Right. So this is actually where that conversation about the Thrive business model really comes in. So what we want to do is we want to map out the customer success journey and think about the starting point for them as being your smallest baby offer that's going to offer them a quick win. Then from there, you're going to not just leave them hanging, right? We're going to continue to further their progress. So what would be the next step that would be the logical step for them to come into for their next level of success with you?
Yeah.
And so that progression is the Thrive business model.
I see. So if you're thinking about baby wins, I mean, it has to be easy and fast, right? It can't be read this 200-page ebook and then, fill out this 20-page worksheet and then check in with me 8 times this week, right?
Right. And that's exactly what simplifying is all about, right? Is what is one quick win that you can give your clients? And that first baby offer, I like to create it in a way that gives them a win that, like, it's actually a result. So, for example, one year I decided to do a podcasting, like teach podcasting to my clients because one of my clients asked me about it. And so I did that as one of my entry points. And so what I did is I just made it so that at the end of those 6 weeks, they had their show, right? So that is how you can do it, is what is like the result at the end versus, there's some things that are going to take a little bit longer for you to put together
Yeah.
and for them to get results on. But if you can give them a quick win that they can just be like, yay, I'm so glad and grateful that I went through that and then did it and showed up and did the work.
And I think what I hear you say there as well is that you have to be intimately knowledgeable of who your ultimate ideal client is and what he or she is struggling with, like really struggling with. Not like, oh, that'd be nice, but actually like, no, this is something I really need to figure out and fast, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
How have you in the past kind of come up with that market research or asked those questions to really drill down and get that information for your clients?
Okay, so I like to think of this as like layers of an onion. So at the center of that layer, at the very core, is the clients who you have absolutely loved working with
Yep.
and you want more of. So take that, whatever they're struggling with, as like the highest form of market research. And, when you go and offer market research and you ask them questions, what are you struggling with? What do you need? What do you see yourself taking on next?
Yeah.
Take the highest weight from those clients that you're like, I want to work with this person again. Okay. Then from there, we go to like other people who have bought from you just because they're going to be like more likely to buy from you again, as well as other people who have similar problems are likely going to buy from you. And then from there, we go to your general audience.
So it's interesting to think about it in segments like that. But then also, I imagine there's some prioritization of what each of those segments are saying to you. Your ultimate ideal client, the person you love, love, love to work with, may have multiple problems in varying degrees. And also, I guess, at varying times of the year, right? She doesn't need a bikini in December. She really needs one in July or whatever it is.
Right, exactly. So how can you, like, I look at this as almost like a little bit of a puzzle, but like, how can you service these people and love up on these people to the best of your ability?
Yeah. And, it makes me also think about your own output, like what you want your life to look like. If
Yes.
you are also hoping to take a good chunk of August off this year when the kids are out of school, or I don't know, do some traveling in December, then mapping your 12-month vision on top of what their needs are as well, right?
Totally. So for me, like the whole summer and most of the beginning of last year, I wanted to only work 3 days a week because I was going through some personal things.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sacrifice the income of the business or my personal income. So I put very specific things in place to be able to do that, including hiring a full-time in-house person to do marketing and sales, right? Because that was the majority of my role. So really, it's absolutely possible. It takes some planning and some strategizing and then guts. You know what I mean? Like, it's very simple, right? Hire good people, create SOPs and have really good customer success journeys. That is the simplest thing. Like, if you do those 3 things, you will have the business of your dreams and you will have all the freedom you want. It takes a little bit of discipline though to make that happen, right? It's because the SOPs, you can just keep going on and on and on and doing work and not do your SOPs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then at the same time, without them, then you can't delegate well to your team. So
Yeah. And, we have a mutual friend in Kelly Roach. She was on the podcast last season talking about how to build a great team. I'll put a link in the show notes for people if you guys want to listen to that. That's the simplifierspodcast.com. When she talks about SOPs, that's writing down your standard operating procedures. Because, a lot of times, let's just be real, when we are business owners and entrepreneurs, we think, well, it's all just up in here in my head. It's okay. When I slow down, I'll write it down. But you never do. You really
you
do
never
need to.
do.
And that's a secret to growing and scaling. Okay, let's get back to launches, because I think that this is elusive to many people. You see the magical unicorn dream stories online of 7-figure launches and 3 hours or less every day, and people laying on top of yachts and fancy cars, and you're just like, what? That is just not reality. So in your opinion, what is the first step in setting up the planning of your marketing launch? Like, where do we begin?
Okay, so I start by planning out the 3 phases. So the first phase is the pre-launch, where you're getting things together on the back end, and you're like coming up with, okay, what's the exact message that I'm going to put together? I start with the sales page because that's the ultimate, that's where people are going. So
that's
start
the
with
offer.
the end in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the offer and the sales page. So we start with the sales page and then we work backwards from there. So we say, okay, what does this person who is going to end up on the sales page, what kind of free experience or results ahead of time can I give them that is going to make the offer a natural next step? And then from there, we craft the live event. So the live event can either be, I like to do challenge launches the most, which is basically 5 days of free content and actionable things that they're doing, and you're holding them accountable to that.
Yep.
And then at the end, they walk away with the results. Again, similar kind of thing. You want to give them results ahead of time. And then that naturally positions them for the actual program.
Yeah. So again, this is that baby win, that 5-day free challenge. That's an easy thing for them to opt into. It's not too big of a time commitment or too big of an outlay of resources or money or anything like that. It's a quick win, a small bite size that leads into a greater program or product or service, right?
Absolutely. And so then we say, okay, this is going to be the live period. So we're going to all need to be like all hands on deck in terms of like the team and what we're all doing. And then before that, we have the pre-launch, which leads us right to where we are, which is where you're starting to promote that challenge. And so you start by first planning all the steps. So there's 3 steps: the pre-launch, the actual live portion, and then the afterwards. Right, where you're reminding them, hey, remember to go back to the sales page, remember to go back to the sales page. Now, it doesn't sound that monotonous, but that's basically the 3 phases. And I like to plan them out and have those dates on the calendar ahead of time, because that will make your life so much easier. Then you can work backwards and do whatever you need to do in terms of outsourcing.
Got it. So in your opinion, is there a magic number of how many launches you can do in a year? Or is it really dependent on what you offer and what your clients also want and or need?
Okay, so there's a couple things. The first thing is there's not like a set number of launches you can do per year. We actually taught the challenge launch method to Kelly Roach, who what she did is she started implementing at like 1 launch per month. That's what I had initially told her what I did. And that worked very, very well for her. She also has a full team, right? So it depends on how big your team is and how much your bandwidth is, right? For someone who is, you have some people that you're outsourcing to, but you don't have an in-house team like on W-2s that you pay full-time salary to,
Right.
I would recommend to start with one per quarter if you're going to go with a challenge launch, because of it takes a little bit longer to plan out all the days, to make sure all the tech is set up and that everything, so you're not like stressing out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And also so that you don't overcommit and underdeliver in all the things that you've got on your plate as well.
Right. So this brings up a great point, and I think it's important for your audience. So when I first started doing launching, I was already having a full one-on-one coaching practice. And so I was trying to launch and scale my business with group programs, and do these challenge launches. So the question became, how do I get that all done? Because I have just some VAs.
Yep.
I have a full coaching practice, and I was coaching people every single week at that time, one-on-one. And then I had my kids and all the things going on personally. So how do you make the time for that? And this is the way that I did that, in a very simple way. What I did is I just put it in the calendar as if it was a client. And I hired myself to do the work for the challenge every single quarter. So I would just map it out and I would put it in as a calendar, and then I treated it like a client.
Yeah, it's so smart. And, that is the truth. I think time blocking is such a powerful tool that, if it's not in my Google Calendar, it literally does not exist in my world,
Right.
So you have to, because then you're committing to, even if it's like, I'm going to write the copy for my sales page, in the next 60 minutes. Okay, I'm not going to have 80 tabs open on my computer and my phone beeping and buzzing and notifying me of all the other things in the world. Like, just laser focus in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So then we hear about sales funnels, and basically, just a recap for anybody that doesn't know what a sales funnel is. It's a giant funnel. You pour in a lot of people at the top, and then, they go through your challenges, your email drip campaign, and your ask, your discovery calls, until they ultimately buy the product or not, right? So that's what we mean by sales funnel. But how do we ensure that we've got the right people entering our sales funnel from the get-go? What are your best practices there?
Start with the sales page. Start with the sales page, do the whole sales page, and then ask yourself, what would prompt me to click to be on this sales page?
Yeah.
And then you just keep asking yourself that about every step.
And then, do you have any sort of best practices of how you like to structure your sales page? I mean, I've certainly seen all the magical things out there. You imagine yourself here, and then you identify the pain. Like, do you have some thoughts there?
Yeah, I just hire a copywriter.
Yeah, it's the truth.
I hire a copywriter, and honestly, between the launch that I didn't have a copywriter and I tried to do it myself, and I consider myself okay at copy. Like, I don't think I'm horrible at copy. But when I hired a conversion copywriter, literally like light years of difference. I think we did over 100,000 in just 3 months from that one sales page that I hired her for. So it was an explosion compared to when I was trying to do it and just stumbling my way through it. So if you are not a natural, like, it's not like you're eloquent with words and you're like, yes, I got this conversion copywriter thing, go hire one. The other thing is, even if you are, because I have coached clients who are copywriters sometimes, and sometimes we're just way too close to our own work. Like,
right.
Give yourself that gift, and it's always worth it in the end, to feel really confident that somebody else could convey this message for us.
Yeah, and I've got an excellent recommendation. A gal by the name of Sabina and her team over at From Scratch. They are conversion copywriters as well. I'll put a link in the show notes for people so you guys can check her out. But yes, when you have somebody who understands storytelling and understands how to write compelling copy, because I think what sometimes, and I'll be the first to admit I'm guilty of this in the past, is you just want to say all the things. You want to throw out the whole kitchen sink because you're like, I just want to show you that I know what I'm talking about. And it's just too much. I mean, it's the exact opposite of simplifying. And I think a experienced copywriter is going to know how to take your story, clarify and define the pain, help people visualize with all five senses that they are, in fact, the right person for the solution you offer, so on and so forth. Yeah. So is there any other things that we need to think about, whether it's pricing or the actual value proposition itself, to make sure we've got the right people at the top of the funnel?
Yeah. So the other big thing is pricing. I find a lot of people are afraid of charging a substantial amount, or even what is going to, if you really look at your numbers, what is going to be profitable for you.
Yep.
So most of your audience is probably doing some service-based work, which is a little bit higher end. And so if you were to launch something, say it was a group program or a course, and you're going to undercharge for it, most of you don't have the full audience you need to get the numbers to even make that worth it if it's going to take you away from a client.
Yeah.
And I experienced the same thing. So when I first started trying to scale, I was like, I'm going to do a membership site. And I was charging like $40 a month for a membership site. But then what I was getting from that membership site compared to just getting another super high-end client for like $60,000, I was totally, like the opportunity cost was so high, it didn't make any sense. And so what I decided to do is to really look at the numbers of what the hour is worth and work backwards from that to create the pricing that would make sense. If, and based on your current audience size, just solve for how many sales do you think you can get based on your current audience size, and make sure the numbers add up. Now, I will tell you, my first ever group coaching launch, I didn't do like this fantastically huge launch. It was about a $1,500 launch. I charged $500 for the program. It was totally beta. I was just like, let me see what happens.
Yep.
I turned that program into a multiple six-figure program, just that program alone. Now, how did I do that? Two things. One, I had to raise my price. Like I could not do full group programs at the level that I wanted to for $500.
Yep.
Okay. The second thing is relaunching it, right? So taking that same challenge that I did the first time and doing it again and doing it again and doing it again every single time you launch it.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, so you're not launching a brand new thing every couple of months. Like, I have to start all over again. Like you're learning from each launch. You're listening to the feedback of your paying clients who say, "Oh, I really loved module 2, but God, I really started to lose hope in module 5. It was too much. I couldn't do it." And you're refining as you go along, right?
Absolutely. And when you have that sales mechanism, you can create predictable income from your launches. It's not like shooting darts and hoping something lands on the wall. Like you know with pretty much precision how you're going to land as you're filling that launch. So if you're like, okay, I get for every 100 or 200 registrants, I get X number of sales, that pretty predictably. And you can then say, okay, my goal is then to 10x my number of registrants, right? And I can do that with, say, Facebook ads or being on different podcasts, for example, or maybe you're going to do an affiliate launch with another, bigger name. Like there's ways you can work with it when you know that your system works in a predictable fashion.
So in that in particular, so how can we 10x our earnings? Like, is there a specific tip you would share with your clients if they're like, well, I've got this group coaching program, it goes okay, I'm earning a little bit of cash, but it's sort of losing steam. What would you tell him or her?
Okay, I would look at where in the funnel is it broken. So look at each and every step and work on optimizing one at a time. So let's say the first time you launched it, you're like, okay, it looks like I had X number of registrants, Y number participated, and Z number became sales. or
Yep.
became clients, right?
Yep.
And that space between like the registrants and the clients was lower than average or lower than what you would anticipate. You just work on that one conversion number. So you're going to say, okay, how can I make the challenge more aligned with the offer? And you just work on that one thing for that next launch. So you're going to go out and you're going to relaunch it. And then see what the results and the data are from that. If it improved it, you just now need more volume.
More people in the funnel.
More people in the funnel, right.
Okay.
If it didn't improve it, you need to go back and look at the messaging and the alignment again. So to simplify it down, know every number and work on increasing the percentages.
Right. And then that's metrics you can test and track, right? So if you have even the simplest of spreadsheets of like X number of people signed up for the free challenge, and then from there, how many people showed up to the live calls, and how many people opened the email drip campaign, and how many people bought in the end, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's all math. It's just math.
Yeah. And, I think it's sometimes it can be discouraging. I mean, we have launched various group coaching programs and had varying levels of success in them. We also have one-to-one coaching as well. And, I think what I've learned over the years of doing this is, first and foremost, I'm an ideas person. So if it's not new and shiny and exciting, I start to lose a little bit of, interest myself in actually running it. That's one thing I know is true about me. So for me to solve that one teeny thing is I have to make it fresh every single time. Just, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but just making the thing fresh and new and exciting for me is really important. But two, we also learned a lot about time of year. You can launch the same exact thing that had huge success and loads of clients getting lots and lots of results and value, and try to launch it 6 months later, like you say, during the busy summer season, and it's crickets. Nobody's interested. So I think it's important to know that as well.
Yeah, I also find the same thing about being in like loving new, fresh things. I think most entrepreneurs can resonate with that. So one thing that I did, so my group program is like the signature one. It's a year long, and we open doors up for enrollment every so often, right? And what I did is I just did a fun workshop for each one as a bonus. So then it's like, for me, I really am about authentically closing doors. I don't want to do fake, like, you have to buy now, but then next week it's open again. Like, that's not my style. So I was like, well, I could do a fun bonus. And so I would do these time-sensitive bonuses because I would start new classes within that program that were running every time that I would do a launch. So that's how I kept it fresh, but also didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, if anyone was wondering what that might look like.
So then if you have a year-long group coaching program, would you open the doors like, say, once a quarter?
Yep, I still open it about once a quarter, and we do these workshops in there.
Okay.
So
as an
they can go
added
in,
value.
Added value.
Got
totally.
it.
They can go in and watch the core curriculum anytime, but the live workshops are added value, and people like it because they have more of that. Like, so I have that, but then I also still have hot seat coaching calls. So there's more like teaching calls, and then there's more hot seat, like, what are your questions?
It's interesting to me. And I always love talking about this. I can geek out about it a little bit, but I also think there's human nature. And so we've been experimenting a lot with sprints. When people get busy, it's hard to commit to a year-long thing. But if you can break down a 12-month commitment into these smaller sprints of like 1 month is themed this, and we're going to focus on this month, and next month we're going to focus on this. It's like it becomes a little bit more bite-sized. I think it's human nature also. Tell me if you've seen this in your clients as well, that no matter what it is you offer, a free 5-day challenge, a 6-month commitment, a whatever, people start dropping off it like flies at about
Yes.
70 to 75% of the way there. Something happens, right? You get fired up in the beginning, you're go, 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 you're getting some wins, you're feeling good about life, and then life happens, and then people start to drop off. Do you see that?
Absolutely. I mean, when we do our live launches and like the challenge and we teach this, like I literally call it the day 3 drop off. Like
It is.
because you have to strategize for that. So when you're noticing that, like that's an opportunity for us to say, how else can we support them? What else do we need? So I actually had a customer service person who their job was to re-engage the clients around that time when we knew that they were going to start to drop off. We actively have somebody who it's their job to keep them engaged throughout that. But absolutely. And I think I teach a thing called mindset mastery where we're like getting better at seeing things through to the end, right? Like really managing our brain and being someone who's going to stick with it and stick with our word. So I actually teach that. And I actually tell them, like, if you're finding yourself wanting to drop off, this is an opportunity for you to master your brain. And I really just and I mean, anyone can use that same concept if you teach mindset, right? That is the moment, that is the pivotal moment in their mindset journey where it becomes hard enough that it's like, oh my God, I could just quit and it would relieve that temporary pain. But long term, I'm going to hate that I quit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
Right,
I think
so
that's it. I mean, human nature, when it starts getting outside your comfort zone and you're starting to lay down those neuro tracks in your brain of a new discipline or a new way of thinking, it takes time and it takes resilience, I think, as well, right? To push through the uncomfortableness to build the repetition of this new thing that you're incorporating into your business, your life, your mind, and then it becomes a habit, right?
Right. And so that's our job as the teacher, the facilitator, the coach to say, let's get these to the these people to the resilience, to the finish line that they say they wanted, right? That's like, I think that's like that friction is so good in a coaching relationship.
Yeah, for sure. So back to the customer success journey, their buying process as well. Why is that important to understand where your customer is at in their buying process?
Okay. So the reason that's important is because there are levels of awareness in terms of how ready I am to make a change, right? So we talked just now about when somebody is getting that rub and they're like about to complete the thing, but it gets a little bit rough at the end, right? And so they go through these levels of change, and you can Google it, the stages of change, and you'll get the actual like visual of it. And so when we're marketing for a specific solution, we want to market based on the level of change that they're at so that it becomes easy for them to say yes. We basically want to make it as easy as possible to get them to say yes. So if you're like, I'll give this example because I think everybody here can really see this. So I had a client who came in and she was teaching bookkeeping and financial management to entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And when she started working with me, she started targeting what did she call them? Like shoebox entrepreneurs who had a shoebox full of receipts that they just kept the shoebox. And then when tax day came, and usually they waited until the last week of taxes, and they said, I need help. I need you to fix the shoebox and do something with this. So those entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs who need her, like so badly
Desperately.
need her. Desperately. But they are not in the mental space to actually like fully be proactive and hire her throughout the year. And also when she was working with them, they wouldn't give her documents on time. So like there was a lot of issues with marketing to those people. So what we did is I had her change her message to entrepreneurs who wanted to up level and make more money. And like her tagline became make more money and keep more money.
Yeah.
And then you're talking to a totally different person. It is someone who understands that the financial health of my business is what will help me make more money and keep more money. It is someone who's proactive and it's a totally different mindset. And so when she started marketing to that, it became easier to sell her program and to get the results on the back end because the people that she was attracting were ready for the change yesterday. They weren't going like waiting until it got bad enough that it was the tax time.
Yeah, I think what I hear there is understanding where people are in the spectrum. Are they problem aware? Or are they solution aware? Right? And people who are shoebox entrepreneurs who have the big pile of shoeboxes, they just sort of hand them over without looking. That's one type of client. But that is also a client who's acting in panic because they don't know any other way to solve this. They're just like, ugh, put the receipts in there. Somebody else will deal with it. They're not solution aware yet, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you market to someone who's solution aware, they're ready to buy and they're going to be ready to go on that stages of change much quicker. So that is something to be very cognizant of in your sales process.
Yeah. So not only is it timely, the offer is timely for when they need to purchase it and also then implement it, but also problem aware versus solution aware. This is all good stuff to kind of keep in mind. So let's do a high level overview of what the Thrive business model is. Like, in your opinion, what should you be selling first out of your products and services?
Okay. So when the Thrive business model is having 3 types of revenue coming into your business. So it's going to be a high level offer, which is like one-on-one or done with you or done for you. Then there's going to be a leveraged offer, which is going to be a group component. And then there's going to be a passive product. Now, when I say passive, I mean it's going to be delivered passively. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be sold passively, but you can get it there if you want to. Okay.
Yep.
I just get a little bit weary of the whole passive income thing.
Yes.
So those are the 3 types of revenue. Okay. Now, when you go to sell it, what we like to teach is to do it like the Tesla model. So what Tesla did is they launched their highest level program first. Most of your clients are already, or your clients and your audience is already doing this, right? They're selling their highest end done with you, that kind of thing. Now what you want to do is basically keep track. Just keep track of the clients you're serving. What do you do when they start? Then what do you do? Then what do you do? Then what do you do? That way you can build out your leveraged offer and you can teach that system that you've already been doing. Okay. And that leveraged offer doesn't have to be as expensive because you're going to service more than one person at once. And then from there, you create your passive income offer, which is the smallest, like done on your own, like totally self-study course. And when you layer it this way, you have created a baseline income so you can leave your job and you're not in your job anymore. And that's probably where most of your audience is, right? They're full-time in their business. So we can do that because we have the baseline income. Now we just want to scale and leverage our time. And so we can go to leverage and then we go to passive.
So then make sure I heard you correct. What we sell first is the high ticket, high touch offer first, right? Because then that also sets with your audience what the baseline is, right? Like the value of my time with Mariana is this, right? And then they go, oh my God, that's too expensive. I couldn't possibly, right? And then 3 months down the line, you come out with that mid-level thing and they go, oh, actually, I didn't need all of the bells and whistles. I just needed her help with this. And that's at a bit of a better price point. Is it also the thought process that, that customer's buying journey, they may enter in at the mid-level, but then eventually be a high-level client of yours as they grow and have more success or build a better trust with you, right?
Absolutely. Like once you have your model like built out and you have the different levels, like you can people will move throughout them.
Yeah.
Especially, because they're going to come in naturally, they're going to come in at the more passive, then they're going to go to the leverage, and then they're going to go to the high. But what happens is if you try to create your business that way, you're going to be trying to do the passive and then you're going to still feel unsure as to what the steps are. You're going to be trying to sell it, but you've never sold it before. And so you're going to be unsure how to sell it and what to say. So when you do it this way, not only you build that baseline income, but you also are getting better at selling that one thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, if I came out the gate year one of my business selling widgets for $49 and then 3 months later selling just bigger widgets for $2,000, and you go, whoa, I thought she was the $49 girl, not the $2,000 girl, or whatever it is. It's also educating your client base, your audience as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's exactly what Tesla did. If you look at anything with that, that's exactly what they did, right? They started with the highest end car. Everyone's like, wow, that's such a high end car.
Mm.
And then the next model came out and it was more affordable,
Yep.
et cetera.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, so let's change gears a bit and talk about creating consistent, recurring, scalable revenue. Tell us more about where we could begin if thinking about doing that or adding that as another layer of our revenue plan in the new year ahead.
Right. So with this model in place, what you want to do is think about your bandwidth
Mm,
and how much space you have on your calendar, really.
yeah.
Because what I found is when I was in that really tight space with having all the one-on-one clients, I didn't have the time to even, I felt like I didn't even have the time to even go build the group or the
Mm,
passive,
yeah.
right? And so, one, really look at the bandwidth you have and then decide what is one way I can take this leverage to the next level. And so, when I was doing the one on one, it was the group coaching. Now I'm doing the group coaching. My next level is really getting even more into courses and self study stuff.
Yeah.
And I have some of those, but I want to go like way bigger,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And so, what is the next level you can do in terms of leverage? The other thing is really looking at, and like I'm giving you the secret sauce here, but this is so simple. And also, people don't think about the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're planning out your year, and let's say you have a group program that's going to be 6 months long, and most clients are going to take the payment plan,
Yep.
right? You got to look at, okay, well, they're going to all finish at this date. So that means my income will drop, which
Yeah.
means what's my plan 3 months before that to make sure I replace that or increase it more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't if I don't make more than that, what's my plan to like make sure I get back on track?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole, like, really, like, the consistent recurring revenue is looking at what the revenue projections are for the year and making sure you're having an upward trend.
Yes, 100%. And cash flow forecasting. I mean, a lot of times business entrepreneurs haven't gone to business school. So the idea of cash flow forecasting is like, well, yeah, that's what other people do. I don't really know how to do that myself. But it really is as simple as what you say, looking at per month, what's the money coming in? What's the money going out per month? And planning for ahead to make sure there's no big surprises, no big drops offs or what have you. Also, I imagine, this is something we learned over time as well, is that if your payment plan has a cancellation policy, and where is your drop
Yep.
off rate with those clients? Not because they're unhappy with your products, but again, human nature, people dropping off. Are you going to lose 20% of your payment plan people after 6 months, for a 9-month payment plan? So I think it's interesting to think about those things and factor that in so that it is consistent across the board.
Yeah. And, like, let me just speak to that for 1 second. So, one of my mentors, James Wedmore, he taught
Mm-hmm.
me that if you aren't getting a return in your business, it's because you weren't selling enough on the front end and you actually left people who needed the program behind.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge game changer for me because when I started, really getting into more cold audiences and marketing in a bigger way, I was feeling a lot of shame and guilt, like, oh my God, these people are falling off or whatever. And that is the natural part of business. And
Yep.
really thinking about if you didn't sell hard enough, like you didn't offer your program enough, you're actually hurting the people that needed it and that just needed that little extra push. And they did actually need it.
And remember, you guys, if sales, like when she talks about pushing hard enough and you kind of go, ooh, icky, I don't know about this. There for two things. One, there's a really great episode where I spoke to Kendra Shope about selling authentically. I'll put the link in the show notes for that. But two, you have to reframe the concept of sales in your mind to simply remember it's problem solving. You have a solution to their greatest problem, and that's it. You're helping them overcome the objections that are perceived in their brain or real in their life, and to help them see if it's a good fit for them right now. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to come back and check in again and check in one more time until they do have a definitive yes or a definitive
or no.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being totally okay. Like it's okay if they say no. And also, like, if you don't get a lot of no's, it's because you didn't put yourself out there enough.
That's it. Okay, so tell us, what's the profitable impact formula? How does that relate to launches?
Yeah, so that's basically where I teach you the Thrive business model. It's my signature program, and we go through and we actually create your funnel for each of these offers. And so I have the blueprint of it is like a house. So we have the foundations of the house, and then we have like you actually building out your funnel for each of those three types of offers.
And so is it understanding the pain point, understanding the objections, coming up with solutions and responses to that, or are there other elements to the formula?
Okay, so I'll share just with you the middle of the house. So the middle of the house, this is what the house looks like, is we have the fuel to the house. Okay, so the fuel, so I like think of an engine like heating up your house. Okay.
Yep.
So the fuel is your visibility. So it's going to be attraction marketing. So it's going to be how you're attracting people in. And then I have a section called connection, because you want to have people, whether it's you or somebody else in your business, doing outbound sales as well. If you look at successful businesses, all successful businesses have an outbound sales section as well. So that's people reaching out and connecting with new people for you, or you doing it yourself and bringing them in. So there's two tracks that fill that center of the house that's fueling the house. So that's the fuel. Then we move them into the commit phase. The commit phase is where they're in your email list or in your Facebook group. It's a little bit closer knit. It's a stronger bond and connection, and they have shown interest in you. It's not just you going after them or them just seeing you once or twice on their feed on social media. Yeah. So that commit phase, and then we move them into the actual launch. So that's the conversion event, whether that be a webinar, a challenge, or a sales call. Those are the three types that I mainly teach. And then from there, we move them into keep. This is where most people forget, right? And this is what I was sharing basically in the front. So I'm just going to recap and put this all together. The keep section is important because when you're looking at your customer success path, you want to look at what's the next step, not just what am I doing right now for them. And that keep phase is what's going to help you to increase your revenue for the overall business without a ton of work. It's way less expensive to keep a client than it is to get a new client. Yep. And the other thing is, for me, that has meant like really these lifelong, beautiful relationships. So the copywriter I hired worked with us for 3 years. Like, it was a beautiful, lifelong relationship, and we will continue that for a long time because we were able to continue to serve her. Right.
And I mean, it is worth saying this out loud. Even if you are not an online business owner yet, I would certainly believe that, and I know for a fact that if you own a brick and mortar bakery, or you sell, I don't know, jewelry or housewares or art, or you're an interior designer or a freelance graphic designer, these things, all these principles that Mariana's talking about can apply in your business. You can implement this into your sales and marketing efforts like right now, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I like to teach based on principles, not the fad. Yeah. Right. So like webinars may go away, right? Challenges may go away. But if we teach you the principles that make that thing successful,
right,
you understand it and can transfer it anywhere. So I had a client who was a therapist, again, not an online business owner, but she was a therapist. And so she went and she was using the strategies for, she was like, let me do not just do therapy, but I want to also sell teaching to big companies, big corporations.
mm-hmm.
And so she was doing like 1-day workshops with some bigger companies. And she's like, I just used the principles. And I was like, I'm so glad I didn't just teach you like, the tactic, because then you wouldn't have been able to transfer that when you did decide to pivot, if ever, right?
Yeah.
And so when you understand the principles and this keeping the clients, like look at how many Nike products you have, how many Apple products you have. They're all doing it. We're just not always cognizant of it, or don't think of it as a crucial step when we're in the driver's seat sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, you guys. So if this is something that intrigues you and you want to learn more about Mariana, I highly recommend checking out her website, impactdrivenentrepreneur.com. And also, you can find her on Facebook. She's got a free community called the Coaching for Impact Community. You can get that at our show notes at thesimplifierspodcast.com. Click on there and you'll be able to route right straight through to get connected with Mariana and her team. Now, you do one-to-one coaching with clients, but you also have that group coaching program. So this is where you can plug in to learn more and actually say, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do 2020 different. I'm going to commit to putting myself out there more visibly, doing launches, and being serious about my sales and marketing efforts. 100%. So, Mariana, I have a few questions I'd like to ask you that I ask all guests that come onto the podcast. And again, thank you so much for your time today. I think this is all good stuff. It's like cementing in my head. Every single time I learn about launches myself, something new opens up, and it's always wonderful. But I'm curious, so tell us, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system right now?
Yeah, so that's Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. It's all about really simplifying and automating and delegating and just creating some free space for yourself. So I talked about how at the beginning of last year, I was getting really good with that. And then I got bad with that again. So it's like when all of a sudden everything comes back to your old habits.
Totally.
It's like, you need a reset. And for me, that book has really helped me to reevaluate everything on my calendar again and get back to it. And I think it's always a good thing to do, is just to look at what's on the calendar, do I intentionally want on here, and what is not allowed here.
Yeah, and put that boundary up again. Yes, I will put a link in the show notes for that book as well. So tell us, who's one person in your network, somebody that you know personally, you just feel is up to brilliant things, and we could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe this year we'll interview them on the podcast as well.
Her name is Lizette. Mm-hmm. She just goes on Facebook as Lizette. There's no last name. So...
And what does Lizette do?
So she helps you to create your dream life and peak performance, even if you're a mom, even if you have a million things on your plate and a million things going on. And she is incredibly brilliant and very, very smart. She's actually teaching her children 3 languages, which, wow. Like just a human that is like so exemplary of excellence. So beautiful.
Brilliant. We will link Lizette as well so you guys can check her out in the show notes. I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what's one thing you're grateful for today?
I am grateful for just the life that I get to live, right? Like it's the dream. It really is, like working from home, having everything that I have dreamt of for so long. And just being able to schedule everything however I want to. Like really, that's a game changer. Because in the mornings, I decided for this redo of the schedule, like I don't want stress in the morning getting the kids to school. So how can I just like make the morning super calm, super gentle, and having the freedom to do that. That's huge.
That is the reason why the majority of us jump off the corporate 9 to 5. We want to have the freedom in our life, and we forget that that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. So again, I encourage you guys, reach out to Mariana. This is a piece of the puzzle that starts to create that consistent revenue for you so that you can continue to thrive and create that consistent lifestyle and freedom in your life as well. So, Mariana, my final question for you is this, and thank you again for your time today. So someone somewhere is listening along. She's probably been feverishly writing in her journal all the things that we've been talking about. And she's like, well, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to launch something online. I'm going to step up into the spotlight. I'm going to be a bit more visual, but she's scared as all get out. What's one thing that you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
Your future self will thank you.
It's true. So you just got to do it. Do it. Do it gloriously. Make mistakes. Do it over again. Get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that pivotal moment that we talked about, right? Like it's choosing your higher self and your future self now, even though it's like a little uncomfortable.
Mariana, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mary.